So these are Perfect Circles by Karen K. Buckley. Here's what they are. They are Mylar circles in every shape imaginable. When I used the circles for this pattern, I just took them off of the ring and figured out which one came closest to the circles in the pattern. So I just lay them on there and I decide, okay, if it's a little bit bigger, it's fine. If it's a tiny bit smaller, that's fine. But every one of these circles came from this set of perfect circles. So once I determine what size circle I need, I take it, I trace it on the back of my fabric, and I just trace around it with just a regular pencil. And I put it aside. I will need it again, so I don't want to put it away. Now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut a seam allowance 1/4 inch all the way around that drawn line. I'm going to take a needle and thread and I'm going to do a running stitch all the way around between the cut edge and the pencil line. So I'm going to go about halfway in between. I've got a knot on the end of my thread. Now this is very important. It's how you start and how you stop. So I've got the wrong side towards me, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come from behind and take my very first stitch, so that the thread, the knot on the thread, is on the right side of the fabric. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to take a running stitch halfway between the drawn line and the raw edge. I like to take my stitches fairly thin, fairly small, so that I don't get any pleats or pucker on my circle. So it's just in and out. You can use the same color of thread as the fabric, but you don't have to, because this thread is going to be hidden in it. It will stay in the fabric, but you'll never see it, so it doesn't have to match. Once I get to the very end, I want to take my last stitch right through to the back. So now my knot and my thread are on the back side facing you, which is the right side of the fabric. I'm going to put it down, and I have the thread towards the top of the circle. I'm going to take the template now and I'm going to put it right on that traced line, and I'm going to give it a tug towards myself, and the whole seam allowance is now fitting very snugly around the template. First of all, I'm going to take my starch, because this is when we'll start to use our starch. So I'm putting it into a clear container, and I'm just spraying it and letting it become a liquid. I don't want it as a spray. I'm going to hold on to it with my right hand, and you can see I'm pulling the thread very tight just to keep that seam allowance wrapped around the perfect circle. With my left hand, I'm going to take the paintbrush, and I'm just going to dab the starch around it. I don't want it to be soaking wet, I just want it to be damp. I'm going to take the mini iron, and I'm just going to hold it on long enough that it will dry the starch. The one thing you want to make sure about is you want to make sure that it is completely dry, that it's not even damp. So I'm going to do both sides, and I'm just going to make sure it's dry. So now I'm going to find that thread again. Here's my thread. I'm still holding it towards you. I'm going to find that thread. I'm just going to loosen it off at that point, and I'm going to pop my template out. Now I'm just going to put that seam allowance back. I'm going to tug the thread just the tiniest bit so that it now is it's laying flat again. I'm going to put a knot in it just to make sure that it doesn't come undone. And then I'll just press it again. Press it up, and there you go, a perfect circle.